This is probably one of the most intriguing weeks in Australian club football in recent history. Just about every one of these round of 16 matchups is super fascinating. There's talking points all across the competition at the moment. Obviously, the round of 32 was already thoroughly entertaining. This round of 16 is being played across 4 consecutive days next week. Here's my predictions. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. Who is going through to the quarterfinals? Join the conversation in the comments section and make sure to stay subscribed here to the channel. We're doing plenty of Australia Cup content over the next couple of months as the competition goes on. But the round of 16 this coming week. First of all, let's talk about Nunawading City taking on Wellington Phoenix, one of our first matches on Sunday at Arvo. What a result it was for Nunawading City. 9-0 against Darwin Olympic. They've scored plenty of goals throughout their Australia Cup run, even prior to the round of 32. But they're coming up against A-League opposition here, Wellington Phoenix, who defeated Perth Glory in an absolute thriller of a match as well. A 1-1 draw, a long penalty shootout, Wellington Phoenix winning 8-7 in the end. Can Nunawading, from the third tier of Victorian football, defeat the A-League opposition here? Interestingly enough, Nunawading City currently sit 13th in that third tier of Victorian football, which is quite interesting. Their league form hasn't necessarily been the best, but when it comes to the cup, they've just been unstoppable up to this point. And I tell you what, if Nunawading was to beat Wellington Phoenix here, I think it would be the biggest cup set we've ever seen in the history of the Australia Cup. Wellington Phoenix, we know they've got a very young squad at the moment. They were missing some key players for that Perth Glory game, but I think a lot of us were a little bit worried about how Wellington Phoenix would look this early on in the season, maybe still building their side for the upcoming season, probably still some more signings to come in. We'd like to see Nunawading really push the Knicks here, but I think Wellington Phoenix do get the win. I'm going to say 2-1 to Wellington. Our other Sunday afternoon match should be an absolute thriller. Sydney Derby, Sydney United 58 taking on Sydney FC. And not only is this a fascinating match just because of the derby, but you've got two teams who have been in Australia Cup finals in recent years. Sydney United 58 were there in 2022. And of course, Sydney FC won the Australia Cup just a couple of years ago, 2023. So this is a huge Australia Cup matchup. Sydney United 58, they did defeat Northern Tigers 1-0 in their previous matchup in the Australia Cup. They currently sit 8th in NPL New South Wales at the moment. Sydney FC, they got past Western United in the round of 32, also with a 1-0 victory there as well. And Sydney FC is an interesting one as well. Again, relying on some of those younger players. It was Macarthur who scored the winning goal for the Sky Blues against Western United. And I think this one could be a real thriller. I'm going for a 3-2 win to Sydney FC in the end. But I'll tell you what, there should be a great crowd in attendance for this one. I'd like to see Sydney United 58, again, really push the Sky Blues here, but I think Sydney FC might just get over the line in the end. On Monday night, Metrostars, the top team from South Australia, are taking on Macarthur FC. The Bulls picked up an impressive 5-0 victory against SD Raiders in the round of 32. Metrostars 4-0 away to Canberra, Croatia, and they also recently won the South Australia NPL Premiership. Metrostars, so they are a team who really could trouble Macarthur here, but I was so impressed with what we saw from the Bulls in that game in the round of 32 there. A couple of their new signings on show. Anthony Caceres was impressive with a goal and an assist. I think they've already built a really strong team there at Macarthur FC. But Metrostars, we should acknowledge their really strong league form. They've been so dominant in NPL South Australia this past season. They will give the Bulls a massive test in this game, so it will not be easy for Macarthur. I expect the scoreline to be much closer here for Macarthur FC. I can't see them running away 5-0 like last time, but I think the Bulls will get the win in the end. I'm going to say a narrow one. I'm going to go 2-1 to Macarthur FC. The Bulls, the reigning Australia Cup winners, will go through to the quarterfinals. An all NPL matchup, Brisbane City hosting Olympic Kingsway. Brisbane City getting over the line in the end against Olympic FC, rivals from Brisbane there, 2-0 in the round of 32. And Olympic Kingsway, of course, we cannot forget their incredible 4-3 cup set victory over Melbourne Victory in the round of 32. So all eyes on Olympic Kingsway as a team who could potentially go a long way in this tournament. That win against Victory will give them so much confidence going ahead in the cup that, regardless of who they come up against, they'll be backing themselves to get the victory and to keep on going strong here. Brisbane City currently 7th in NPL Queensland. Olympic Kingsway currently 2nd in NPL Western Australia as well. So 2 NPL teams with a chance to get to the quarterfinals here. Huge matchup in Brisbane, but I think Olympic Kingsway, with that fantastic victory in the previous round in the cup, I think they get across the line in the end here as well. I'm going to say 3-2 win for Olympic Kingsway over Brisbane City. Tuesday night sees Heidelberg United taking on Western Sydney Wanderers in what is, again, just a fantastic clash. Heidelberg United have been one of the top teams in NPL Victoria this past season. Currently sit 2nd in NPL Victoria. They only just slipped down from first place after being defeated by Avondale in NPL Victoria last week, but they've been so strong in NPL Victoria this past season. They did defeat Western Bears 2-0 in the round of 32, and for Wanderers, they looked really impressive in that 3-0 victory against Peninsula Power. A few of their new players involved. We saw Alu Kowal and Costa Barbara Roosters, their new look frontline, leading the way for Western Sydney Wanderers. I was impressed with what we saw from Western Sydney Wanderers in that game against Peninsula Power. I think some of their passing play was really nice and they were looking dangerous on the ball going forward, but they will have a really tricky test here coming up against one of the top teams from NPL Victoria, Heidelberg United. What an opportunity. Some players in that Heidelberg team having a fantastic campaign this time around. Of course, they've got Central Coast Mariners winger Sabit Nyor on loan at the club there at the moment. Huge test for Western Sydney Wanderers here. I'm going to say 2-2 at the end of extra time, and then Heidelberg United to win it on penalties in the end. I think we will get the cup set here. It's a big one. Western Sydney Wanderers, I think a lot of us are expecting big things from them this season, but I tell you what, Heidelberg United, home crowd advantage. I think they'll get them across the line in the end on a penalty shootout. Heidelberg United to go through. And then the three matches on Wednesday. First of all, Avondale FC taking on APIA Leichhardt. Two teams who will be competing in the Australian Championship later this year. A big matchup to watch out for once again. In the round of 32, Avondale were impressive in their 5-1 victory over Stirling Macedonia, whereas for APIA Leichhardt, that 2-0 cup set victory over Melbourne City, but of course a bit of an interesting one as we spoke about in our round of 32 recap last week. Melbourne City fielding a very inexperienced and young team in that game, but APIA Leichhardt getting the win there. Avondale currently first in NPL Victoria after defeating Heidelberg United last week. APIA Leichhardt currently second in NPL New South Wales. So you've got some of the top, state level teams here coming up against each other. So a really fascinating matchup to watch as well. Again, I think it'll be a tight match, but I think home crowd advantage for Avondale FC will get them across the line in the end, 2-1 to Avondale. And how about this one? It's a Newcastle derby. Cooks Hill United taking on Newcastle Jets. What a fantastic occasion for Cooks Hill United. This team from Newcastle taking on their local A-League team here. Just a fantastic matchup and hopefully a huge crowd in attendance for this one. Cooks Hill United, that 3-2 win against Adelaide Croatia Raiders. Really impressed with Cooks Hill United in that game. Some of their goals were really nicely taken. Jets defeated A-League opposition in the round of 32, 2-1 against Adelaide United. Again, a few of their new signings on show in that game, the likes of Alex Battolado, Max Burgess, who's recently arrived at the club. And for this game, we could potentially see a debut possibly for new centre-back Joe Shaughnessy, who has arrived at the club as well. It would be great to see Cooks Hill United get the victory over Newcastle Jets. It'd be absolute scenes if they did get it done in the end, but I think Jets just have too much quality and A-League experience there. I will go a 2-0 win for the Jets. And lastly, South Melbourne taking on Auckland FC. South Melbourne semi-finalists in the Australia Cup last year, taking on last year's A-League premiers. Again, as you can see, all these matchups are just incredible. South Melbourne, look, they've been struggling a little bit in NPL Victoria, 9th currently in that competition. They did defeat South Hobart 2-1 in the round of 32, whereas for Auckland FC, 4-0 against Gold Coast Knights. They looked strong in that game. But a lot of us are really interested in regards to how Auckland are going to go in their second season in their existence, and they started in perfect fashion there against Gold Coast Knights. They fielded a very strong squad in that game, so we expect a strong team again to line up here against South Melbourne. Auckland FC, I think they will be too strong in the end in this one. 1-0 win for the team from New Zealand. And of course, it's great that we already can see the path to the Australia Cup final. So if my predictions turn out to be true, the quarterfinals will be Auckland FC taking on Sydney FC, Wellington Phoenix taking on Heidelberg United, and then on the other side, Avondale FC playing Olympic Kingsway, and then finally Newcastle Jets up against Macarthur FC. So again, fascinating matchups all over the place. Feel free to drop your predictions and thoughts in the comment section, join the discussion, and hit the like button on the way out if you've been enjoying the Australia Cup content here on the channel. Thanks guys for tuning in. My name's Lockie. I'll see you in the next one.